Before we let Nick get started, just a few housekeeping rules. Yes, this session is going to be recorded, so don't worry about it if you have to drop off or if you want to send this to your best friend, your coworker, your cat, we can do that. If you have any questions as we're going through, you can drop them either in the chat or the Q&A, if that would be preferable, and we'll answer them at the end. I'll read them back to Nick. And if you have any interest in learning more or contacting the team, there should be a little button to the top right. You can click there and chat to us. So with that, Nick, the stage is yours.
Great. Thank you, Andrea. Bear with me just a minute while I try to organize my technology. So I'm hoping to share my screen. Bear with me just a moment. Apparently harder than I had anticipated. All right. So, yeah, we are going to be talking today about, there we go, that's better, about connecting your content to revenue with Turtl's Integration Hub. Hopefully that's what we're all here for, because that is what we're going to be talking about. There's an interactive demo or demonstration part of today. We've already met the speakers. So I'm Nick Mason. I'm the CEO at Turtl. We just met Andrea, who's our head of product marketing. And as I was just saying, we have got various different parts of the webinar today. So we're going to start by talking about the revenue gap. All of that time, budget, energy, and apparently your soul as well go into producing and promoting content. But what comes out, we're going to take a look at that. Then the bit that I was referencing, jumping the gun, we're going to be doing a live demonstration of the brand new Integrations Hub, which, as it says here, is a one-stop shop to get the most from your tech stack and connect your content to revenue. And then we've got time at the end for Q&A. So based on the stuff that we're going to go through today, obviously good for everyone to be able to ask questions and share thoughts. So that's what we've got. And I think I will dive straight in and start talking about the revenue gap. So to zoom out a couple of steps, or more like several thousand steps, taking a look back at what's happened and how digital marketing has evolved over the last 25 years. So just a small, brief subject to cover in a quick 5-minute intro, but it's worth doing. So way back 25 years ago, when digital marketing was in its infancy, it was really when we started to see the rise of websites, digital ads, and search. Those were the main things that we as marketers were doing on digital channels back in the 2000s. And at that time, spend was relatively low. We estimate the best available data seems to suggest around 40 billion to 80 billion was being spent globally on digital marketing at that time. And things, I think it's fair to say, have come quite a long way since the 2000s. So we saw in the 2010s to 2015, the rise of marketing automation, CRMs and CRM integrations, and spend went up proportionally. And then latterly in the 2015 to 2020 kind of era, we saw social media really mature, and B2B businesses in particular starting to use those channels to reach audiences, new audiences, and existing audiences in whole new ways. And we also saw a massive surge in content through that period, with everyone trying to vie with everyone else to get their thought leadership, their reports, their white papers most read in order to influence buyers throughout their buying cycle. And now we find ourselves in 2025 with a whole new set of challenges and opportunities in front of us. We've got a range of different privacy laws that have come in. We've got all kinds of influences of AI and AI content, challenges around data and data hygiene. I can't remember the last time I spoke to a senior marketer who didn't make some comment about the quality of their data hygiene. And spend, as you can see from this chart, has gone up massively over that period, to the point where globally, somewhere between 1.2 trillion and 1.5 trillion is being spent on digital marketing today. So the world has moved on huge leaps and bounds over the last 25 years. But what's interesting and slightly paradoxical is that our ability actually to tie all of that spend back to commercial outcomes that the business cares about has frankly just not kept pace. And partly it's a problem of sophistication, because back in the day, over on the left in the 2000s, it was relatively simple. There were relatively few things that you could do, and so it was relatively easy to track the ROI of those things. But now we've got such a complicated landscape with so much going on, so many channels, interrelated channels, campaigns, different mechanisms that we use. It's actually very difficult to tie large chunks of that spend back to demonstrable ROI that the business cares about commercially. And so as a result, we end up in a place where, taking the top end of that figure, there's a $1.5 trillion black hole in marketing globally, because we've massively upped the sophistication of what we can do. We've massively upped the proportion of our budget and the amount that we spend there, but the ability to tie that back to ROI simply hasn't kept pace. And as a result, you end up with this massive black hole. And to zoom in a little bit and look at content's role, because after all, that's what we're here to talk about, content's role within that problem, it remains the case that somewhere in the region of 35 to 45% of a typical B2B marketing budget is spent on content. This figure, 41%, comes from a research paper that we did earlier in the year. So of that 1.5 trillion, arguably 41% is being spent on content and content-related activities. But there's two problems within content, within all of that spend. So firstly, it's estimated that in the Fortune 500 alone, around $480 billion are lost every year due to fragmented document communication, content workflows within organizations. So after content has been produced, whether for internal audiences or external audiences, getting the right content to the right person at the right time, either in order to do their job internally or to make a decision externally, it's estimated that inefficiencies and fragmented workflows there are costing businesses around 480 billion every single year in the Fortune 500 alone. So that's like a bottom line cost that businesses are bearing, lack of operational efficiency. But on the right-hand side, we're also missing out on opportunities on the top line, because McKinsey estimate that 1.5 trillion is lost in the US economy every single year because brands and B2Bs are not able to personalize their content, their offers, their communications at scale to their target audiences. And so McKinsey estimates that if businesses could do that properly at true scale, another 1.5 trillion every year in revenue would be added to the US economy. So what this paints is a world where there's a huge amount of sophistication, huge amounts of money being spent, operational inefficiencies on the one hand, but also missed revenue opportunities on the other. So it's a fairly sort of stark picture that we're sort of leaning into here. Now, it's not the sole cause behind all of this. There are many different causes, and we explore those in different places. But one of the major factors within this, as it relates to content, is that our content in many, many cases has never been properly connected up to our revenue systems. So while we are creating our white papers, reports, guides, brochures, newsletters, videos, short form, long form, LinkedIn posts, all the rest of it, how well connected are those actually up to the systems in which we measure revenue, pipeline, revenue, commercial outcomes that the business understands, and what problems are being created because of that lack of a true link, a true connection? Well, some of the problems we've just seen on the previous page. And so we see this as a major factor and a major issue which can be addressed to alleviate some of those challenges that we've seen on the previous slides. And that's what we're here to talk about today. And so with no further waiting, we are really excited to introduce our Integrations Hub, which is designed somewhat predictably to solve that exact problem. So why have we built the Integrations Hub, and what does it do? And firstly, we built it to unify your content and your CRM, and so create a single unified connected view of engagement, intent signals, and how those are moving pipeline and revenue in your revenue systems of record, typically your CRM. That's one purpose. The second purpose is to create actionable revenue insights. So based on that data and based on that data sharing, you can learn over time what really drives pipeline and revenue and those commercial outcomes in the business, and do more of it, which leads to the third point, which is to create a growth flywheel, which is whereby creating content and then tracking it all the way through to pipeline and revenue, understanding signals, missed opportunities, you can improve your practice over time and marshal your resources behind the efforts, the activities, the campaigns, the content, the topics, which are driving the most commercial output, most commercial value for your marketing team and for your business. So this is why we built the Integrations Hub, and we see it as really fundamental, because if we can't tie what we're doing with content through to those commercial outcomes for the business, none of these things become possible, and we continue to operate in the dark with things not properly plugged together. So quite a tall order that we're asking from the Integrations Hub, but this is fundamentally why we've built it. And so in simple terms, to resolve the diagram, which may have been bothering other people as much as me, not seeing those plugs connected together. What it fundamentally does is allows you to connect your content properly up to your revenue systems in meaningful ways, so that you can really understand, going both ways and in a flywheel, what's driving what and where we should invest next to get the best commercial outcomes for the business. So hopefully that served as a useful integration. That's wrong. Introduction, that's the word. And I will move on now to a slightly hairy live demo, because we are going to be integrating live Turtl instances with live HubSpot instances. And I thought that AI demos were slightly nail-biting, but actually integrations-based demos are arguably more so. So I'm going to flip over to the Integrations Hub. And so what I've done here is in my workspace in my team, I've clicked on this new option here, Integrate. And here we can see all of the integrations that Turtl offers off the shelf as part of the platform. So we've got HubSpot, Marketo, all the popular CRMs. We've also got options for intent providers, 6 Sense and Demandbase there for those doing ABM at scale. And there's a raft of other integrations available as well. There are further custom integrations that are available, but we're just going to concern ourselves with this list here for today. And actually, more specifically, we're going to be looking at this through the lens of the HubSpot integration. So if I click on the HubSpot piece there, I can see some information about what I'm going to be able to do once I've connected Turtl up with HubSpot. And for those already using Turtl with HubSpot, please do stick with this, because there's a huge amount of new stuff that's suddenly available with the introduction of the Integrations Hub. So we can improve insights, we can improve ROI, we can generate more leads, we can personalize at scale. That's what I'm going to take through now with this HubSpot integration. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to try and be a bit clever. I'm going to start a stopwatch, because I'm going to set myself the goal of having Turtl and HubSpot fully integrated within 5 minutes. I don't actually know if you can see the timer because it's in a pop-up window, but it has started, and we will be checking back in to see how we got on. So timer started, overview information read, we can get going. So I'm just going to click install now over here on the right hand side. And what's going to happen is I'm taken off to a page where Turtl is establishing a connection with HubSpot. Now, I've blurred out the names of the accounts here for hopefully obvious reasons. There's sensitive information there, but all I'm going to do is just click this one here, which I happen to know is the right instance, and click choose account. And by doing that, Turtl understands, and I'm going to click connect app. Turtl understands which HubSpot instance that I have access to, it should be integrating with. And there you go, in the space of 45 seconds, we've got the initial integration set up. So that was pretty easy. But it doesn't stop there. There's more that we can do. So we've got HubSpot set up, which is great. We can choose to generate and identify leads, and there's various different help articles on how we do that, how you can set up your HubSpot. We can drive revenue, improve ROI, which we're going to take a closer look at. We can generate intent signals, and we can also personalize at scale. And obviously, you can read these different items at your leisure and understand how you can implement those based on your workflow. But over here on the right, we've got some additional settings. And some of these workflows, some of these pieces of functionality that you can unlock are directly referenced under settings. So we're going to go and have a look at those next. So the first thing we're going to do is set up reader intent data. So as people consume documents, Turtl is able to measure, monitor that behavior, monitor that engagement, and send signals across to your HubSpot based on how it's seen people interact. And so there's 12 different contact properties that we can add just by clicking this button here, which I've already done. So Turtl engagement over different time periods, topics and topic ranks, top 3 topics. And we do this by understanding, using AI to read the content and that you're producing and work out basically which topic each page is about, and then go and roll that up into an overall topic rank for each individual reader, which then gets passed across to HubSpot. And so if I flick across to HubSpot for just a moment, and again, you can see I've cleverly obfuscated PII there, we can see how this shows up. So for each contact record that we have over here on the left-hand side, we can see their top 3 topics, their total Turtl engagement score, that's hard to say, and we can also see which documents they read at the top of funnel. And we're getting that last view there around top of funnel docs because we've analyzed and tagged which documents are marked as top of funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel. And so all of these intent signals can be pushed across into HubSpot or your CRM of choice in order to inform which marketing journey should they go down, which sales resource should we apply, which is the next best piece of content that we should send to this person. All of those sorts of questions can be answered by looking at the engagement data and understanding what has this person engaged with previously, and therefore what is the next best action that we can take. So that's really powerful. And just by clicking 2 buttons there in Turtl, first to connect and second to turn this on, I was able to get those 12 properties sent across. But the really interesting stuff is proving ROI with revenue data. So what happens here is I turn this switch on, and then I go through a bit of a configuration process. So the first thing I need to do is tell Turtl which pipelines in HubSpot I use to manage my pipeline and revenue. And bear in mind, this is a test instance, so all of the data we're going to see is going to be dummy data. Then I have to say some mapping. So the deal name is the deal name, the amount is the amount. And this is really just to take account of configurations where you may have put the currency in a slightly different field, for example. So all of this is standard for us. And then we need to tell Turtl what are the open deal stages, which I'm going to do right now. So appointment scheduled, qualified to buy, presentation, decision, contract sent, what the won stages are and what the lost stage is. And when I've done that, I can also filter deals additionally. And what this is doing is telling Turtl how you think about your pipeline in your CRM, in this case, HubSpot. And so I'm basically done. I'm going to click save and I'm going to stop the timer. We're 4 minutes and 26 seconds in. And in that 4.5 minutes, what I've set up is a 2-way connection between Turtl, not just to send these engagement signals and these contact properties across to HubSpot, but also so that Turtl understands how we think about revenue and pipeline within our CRM, within our revenue system of record, so that it can help us to understand how our content is influencing that pipeline and revenue within that revenue system of record. So if I jump over now, what this makes available, and again, this is sample data here that I've got turned on, hopefully for obvious reasons, is I can see a report, which is based on the information that we input around our pipeline in HubSpot in that previous screen, how much MRR in this case has been influenced by content, how much in terms of pipeline has been influenced by our content, and how many deals have been influenced by content. And the way that we do that is by connecting contact or reader engagement with content. And then we take that contact record, see which deals they're associated with, and therefore we can map that all the way through to pipeline and to revenue. So that's the mechanism by which we do this. And so we can report and we can say, well, content influenced deals have got an 11% higher win rate because we can compare deals where content was consumed versus deals where content was not consumed, according to the records that we hold. We can do the same for ASP, and we can also do it for sales cycle length and for a number of other metrics. So these top line metrics all become available purely by connecting your CRM up to Turtl so that we can compare content engagement with pipeline movement. That's the simplest way to think about it. And so we can provide this really useful top level reference to show how your content is actually moving commercial outcomes. But we can go further and we can actually spot hidden opportunities to close more pipeline. So by looking at opportunities that you have available and how they're engaging with content today, we can actually flag these and say, this deal with Apple, and again, sample data, looks like deals which have previously closed in this kind of a way. They've got a really high engagement score, and we can tell you which contacts are leaning in and engaging with the content and what the topics are that they're engaging with as well, so that you can take this data, similar to what I showed on the HubSpot screen a minute ago, and use this to go and focus your sales and marketing efforts on the right accounts to close more in pipeline opportunities and to focus efforts on the right accounts. We can also show you how different documents are driving revenue, how different content types, sources, as in channels, locations, devices, workspaces, how all of those things are correlating with revenue. So we can see this document at the top is influencing the most MRR. It's been impactful in 72 deals, and the win rate where that is involved is 74%, so probably used late in the buying stage. But we can take a look at this in terms of sources, so we can see which channels are being most effective: direct, Google, LinkedIn, etc. And we can also go further and look at topics. So which topics are people reading about and how does that convert into commercial outcomes, pipeline and revenue? And so by looking at these stats, you can really inform yourself as to, what is it that I'm writing about? on what channels for what audiences, which is actually causing a commercial benefit, a commercial outcome in terms of pipeline generated and revenue closed. So some really, really powerful elements that become available when you do that two-way connection between Turtl and your revenue system of record, all the way from top level clarity on how your content is influencing commercial outcomes, down to hidden opportunities, all the way down to some deep dive stuff in terms of what's really driving revenue. So an incredibly powerful set of reports there that are available just by connecting the two systems together. But we can go further. And what I'm going to do now is show how AI can assist further with this. So you may have noticed in analytics in general, but particularly on this revenue screen, we've got Hatch AI, which is our AI agent, which sits all the way across the content lifecycle. And Hatch has got a preloaded prompt here, give me headline performance takeaways. I'm just going to click Ask Hatch AI. And what's happening is that Hatch is taking all of the data that's available there. So any filters that you may have applied, as you can see at the top, segments, sources, etc., those will be taken into account. And I've just asked Hatch for a headline performance takeaway, sort of like an executive summary. And Hatch has gone in and it's provided exactly that. So an impressive revenue impact, strong engagement, solid readership, lead generation success, personalization effectiveness, etc. So it's done me a really nice, crisp exec summary across the top. But I can get even further, and I can say, for example, I can take a canned or a suggested prompt, which documents, content types, topics, and channels perform best. Great, I can ask Hatch that. And again, Hatch is going and looking at probably tens of thousands of data points in the background and building out that insight for me. And if you think about answering this question previously, you'd have to have gone and downloaded a ton of data, got busy with Excel and formulas and pivot tables and all that horrible stuff. But Hatch can just go and work this out for you. So it can go and look instantly across all of that data and answer your question. And it can provide tables and insights in a way that, would take marketing teams hours or days or potentially even weeks to get the answer. So we can see which content types are influencing the most revenue and the most pipeline and how that's influencing win rate, which topics are having that effect, which channels are having that effect. And we can also look at lead performance spotlight. Again, this is sample data, don't worry. And Hatch is also going to make recommendations there. So it's talking about optimizing my content mix, leveraging high performance topics, etc. And Hatch has been trained on absolute best practice, not just in terms of your data, but in terms of how to think about this through a marketing lens. So it's got a very powerful and sophisticated sense of how you can evolve your strategy and your tactics based on the data that it's serving to you. So we'll just try one more piece here, which was quite a good prompt that I saw earlier, which I'm going to copy and paste. So where is it? So here we go. So this is a tricky one, which would take an awfully long time for someone to answer. What channels have influenced the most new business high value inquiries over the last 2 quarters? Can you break this down by month? So a really complicated query for Hatch to go and chew on. And again, unless you've got quite a sophisticated data capture and processing system in place and a data team to go and run that for you, that's going to take you, I'd argue, days or weeks, if indeed it's even possible. But Hatch responds in a matter of seconds with the insight that we requested, summarized here below, and some recommendations that we can take forward. So a really powerful way to up the power of how our content is influencing those commercial outcomes with insights available very quickly with very, very low effort. So that's the Integrations Hub, and that's what it makes possible. You can all let go of your hats now. I'm really glad that nothing went awry there as we integrated various different production systems. And that's the Integrations Hub. That's the power of what it can do. And that's also the power of how Hatch can sit across the top, across your whole content journey and provide incredible value. And so what that does fundamentally is helps us and allows us to close that revenue gap, because what we've done is we've moved from blind spots to visibility, because we've connected content and content engagement all the way through to pipeline and revenue in the relevant system of record. That's what we basically just saw. We've also moved from educated guesses to confidence and clarity, because anyone now, hopefully you'll agree with me, through using Hatch can interrogate millions of data points at the speed of AI. So all of that data, all of that surfacing to try and find the story and the signal in the noise can be done by anyone in a matter of seconds. And fundamentally what that allows us to do is to move from a revenue gap to revenue growth. Because once you've made those blind spots visible, and once you've got the ability to get confidence and clarity from all those data points, you can leverage the full force of your content investments and your content spend in support of commercial goals, rather than continuing to wonder, is this moving the needle? Is that moving the needle? What should we do next quarter to fuel growth and to fuel commercial performance? So really, that's the key one, because it allows you to line up all of your resources really accurately in pursuit of your commercial goals. So I think that's everything. That was an incredibly fast 25 minutes. I feel like it was more like 5 minutes. Hopefully that was useful and interesting. And I will now pass back to Andrea to see whether we have any questions.
We do indeed. Very exciting question. How do we get this? What subscription do we need?
That's a great question. Is that one for me?
That is for you. I can answer it as well. I did answer it in the chat, but I just thought it was worth saying it out loud. So on the Turtl side, you would need the Grow AI or the Scale AI package. On the HubSpot side, I believe as long as you have those attributes, you should be able to map them. So it's not really, I don't think, a restriction on the HubSpot side, more making sure that you have the right package to be able to integrate with your HubSpot information. Cool. Next question is, how does connecting CRM and intent data improve marketing and sales alignment?
That's a great question. I think what we've seen in a number of cases is it just helps everyone agree on where we should be focusing our resources, why, where, and how. And so I'm thinking back to a number of enterprises that we've supported here, where if we can agree which prospects are showing the most activity with content, and which topics that is on and which channels that is on, we can take a coordinated approach across sales, marketing, and any other stakeholders to go and drive communications and drive activity towards the right people on the right channels with the right message, which at the end of the day is what the game is all about. So in short terms, that's how we see that operating in real life.
Thank you. Derek says, exceptional next steps you are showing on the Integration Hub. This is a massive step forward. I love it. Thank you,
Great.
Derek.
Thanks, Derek.
How does this help marketing prove revenue contribution to leadership?
So this is a really interesting question. And I've spoken to a few people where initially there can be a degree of hesitance to turn that integration on and understand how content is actually driving pipeline and revenue. Because what if it's not a good news story? What if it's not really making an impact? Well, in every case where we've been able to turn this on for someone, they've seen a really positive story that actually has surprised them. And so we've been through a number of cycles with this, with different customers, where we turn that on, they see the results and they say, oh my goodness, that's brilliant. That's even better than I thought. I can take this to my leadership team. And in some cases, the leadership team has come back and said, well, hang on a minute, we need to question this data and how was this arrived at? But in every case where that's happened, the leadership team, the data team have come back and agreed that actually that is the right number. And actually in one case, they thought it should be higher. And so we've seen this in real life on the ground with marketers, A, be pleasantly surprised by the metrics that come back, and B, found that they've been very, very relatable to leadership, and also have stood up under really some quite considerable scrutiny from different data teams. So long answer to a short question, but fundamentally they're the metrics that the leadership team cares about, and the data is done in such a way that it is highly, highly credible for those stakeholders.
Excellent. What metrics can teams expect to see improve once they've integrated?
That's a good one. Shall I let you take that one, Andrea?
Me?
Yeah, why
You're
not?
answering questions. I mean, it depends. The first and most important thing before you decide on metrics is set your OKRs, please. Always start with your OKRs, then go down to, why you're tracking these things, why they're important. I'm the queen of why. I'm always asking why. So make sure you've got that aligned. And then it all just kind of flows from there. What I really like, and I don't know, Nick, if you can show it again, is the revenue dashboard that very precisely tells you the impact that your content is actually having. So you can measure your total impact versus influenced from Turtl, this right here. So you've got your influenced MRR, a number of docs that have influenced that. So this is really, really, really powerful. And of course, I like the hidden opportunities as well. Just kind of letting you know who's looking at your stuff, who's sussing you out, so you can create some personalized docs and get out there. And I mean, that's how you start improving your metrics, right? Metrics are many. Let's just make sure we don't fall into those vanity metrics of clicks and views, but instead we're tracking really powerful stuff like influenced revenue, because that is what matters at the end of the day. Will a copy of the webinar be available? Yes, we said this in the beginning. We will be sending this recording out so you can watch it again and you can share it. So no wrong questions here. But does anybody else have any other questions? Well, we are still here. You can drop them into the Q&A or the chat. Do we have crickets in the room? Here we go. And I think I can get this on the screen, if I'm right. In a world where marketeers are struggling to justify budget and marketing spend, this opens the door to being able to justify increasing the budget rather than reducing the budget based on tangible facts. This is a CFO's dream. We should have had Ashlyn here.
Yeah, I'm sure she would agree, and that's exactly what we've seen, Derek, which is just like, I won't name the customer in particular who was sort of an early adopter of this, but they went from a place where they were just on the back foot around their spend, and they were spending quite a lot across different channels that they were doing, actually into a place where they're able to tell such a good story that budget wasn't a problem, and the question was, how can we do more? How can we push more in these areas that are showing like really strong response to the content that we're doing? So I fully agree, and it's so clear from speaking to people in the market that this is the challenge that really marketing leaders are facing today. So it's great that we're able to help. Yeah,
absolutely. This is not just a CFO's dream. This is a marketer's dream. Imagine unlimited budget.
I don't know about that. You have to talk to Ashlyn about that. That's.
I got excited. Amazing. I think with that, we can wrap up. Thank you, everybody. Once again, this will be sent to everyone over the next couple of days. So don't worry, you will be able to watch it again and share it with your coworkers, your CFO, right? Well, we're talking about that. Thank you again for attending, for your questions. And if you have any additional questions or you're curious to learn more, be sure to click on the button at the top right or go to turtl.co and drop us a line.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.